Start a little early. No holding music. That must have been excruciating. How's everybody doing? How are you? Thought I'd get going a little early tonight. Got nothing going on. It's been a long day. I'll talk about that later. All good, I guess. It is what it is. So welcome everybody. Hope everyone had a decent Friday, decent week. Hope I'm coming through good. Ready to talk some toys. Probably some Transformers. Probably teased everybody with the Jetfire. So we could probably talk a little Jetfire if we want. I don't have a sample of that one, but we could certainly talk about it. Claudio, how are you? So, kind of a crazy week, a little bit. I thought I'd talk a little bit about the launch of big movie efforts in toys. Take a little bit of a different tact on it. We'll talk about Rise of the Beast, obviously. But I wanted to maybe lay out some of the differences of scale that come up when you're talking about making movie lines. So top line that, see if there's any interest. We could answer some questions on it, and then if we want to skip to something else, we certainly could do that. All right. So I went to my local store and saw the full line of Rise of the Beast product out, probably 2 weeks ago now, and seemed like it had a full wall of things. I don't think they had every price point, because they did not have a lot of the vehicle-based characters yet. It was mostly the Beast-based characters and some RC thrown in there, a little bit of Bumblebee. But nothing of the Porsche that's in the trailer. So that was interesting that the Porsche wasn't in there. And Ninjatron has arrived. Hello, sir. And so, got a good question here. When it comes to movie design figures, who came up with the designs, Hasbro or Paramount? Mostly Paramount, with some overlays and discussion with Hasbro, obviously. And then we would take their designs and do whatever we had to do to them to make product. We didn't report back to anybody for approvals or anything. That was the Hasbro umbrella. So we just took their reference and ran and made scale changes or whatever we needed to do. No, I won't talk about the trailer per se, but so when you could see it's almost 2 months out from the movie coming out, right? And they already have a full complement of product. That's the standard way to do it, so that you can build up enough anticipation. It operates a little bit like part of the trailer or pre-hype of the film coming, the toy product. So in recent years, we're so spoiler or first to report centric now that the toy bios and the paperback books and the different things where little bits of story leak out, coloring books or whatever now, they are held back more and more for fear of spoilers. So I don't know if the Porsche has something to do with that. We could talk about a little bit like when Star Wars puts an embargo on for a release date. That's really hard to do. You're timing your wave of product that you make. So when you make, let me step back. Welcome to the Friday night Hasbro Toy Armada toy discussion. Today we're talking a little bit about toy launches with feature films, and probably do a little bit of Jetfire talk and some Q&A. I'm Aaron Archer. I was a toy designer at Kenner and Hasbro for 20 years or so, and a big part of that was on Transformers, where I worked on the films and video games, and worked with all the partners in a planned strategy around content and all the opportunities. So now I like to talk about the whys and what fors of kind of behind the scenes. I don't really review toys too often, but I kind of talk about the toy process. So let's get back to the show. So in order to fill the drop pallets and front entryway spaces and double wides and everything that goes along with a real merchandising opportunity, you have to really plan all that extra product than a normal line would have. So I'm not going to talk numbers, but it's substantially more, when you're promoting a film. So you have to have more product in more places and more of it, and ideally it's selling at a faster turn, so you need more of it faster even. So you have to start that process backwards, and actually often we're making product, you've heard likely that product made off of pre-production art or animatics or whatever we could get to hit our dates, and it often was not the finished things. A lot of movie one, we did all the first wave stuff off the 2D art, digital art, not the finished ILM anything. That came in later waves, because we had to fill such a volume of product that you had to start that much sooner. So simply, when you're making toys or anything production wise, you're mold limited. So I always go back to Play-Doh. If you have a Play-Doh mold, you have one mold, and you can only make so many, teeth at a time, right? And that's your limit. Well, if you have more molds, you can make more teeth. Maybe if you use the molds longer during the day, you can make more teeth and more molds and more longer. And then you figure out the math of what you need, and so you're pumping out an a large amount of product. Long story short there, but it was impressive to see all that a fair 2 months prior to the show. Now, to be fair, the movie did get pushed out, so they must have held back all that production somewhere, which also could have been its own nightmare. So if you're pumping a lot of stuff out of the production facilities, and you then have to store them for any length of time and make sure they don't escape into the wild, that would be a considerable pain in the process for sure. What else can I talk about with the launch of movies? They're their own thing. They get their own feeder. You partner with other companies sometimes to do those end cap boxes. I think at Walmart you see the Black Panther, and you get a little bit of everything. You get some lunch boxes, you get some toys, you get a t-shirts, you get a range of things as a way to do that now, because you're really promoting the whole effort. And that's a thing that, in that case, maybe even Marvel is promoting with Walmart. Like, we're dropping a Black Panther, drop. It's not a Hasbro drop. It's not a 80s Tees drop. It's not a it's a Marvel drop. That could be the case there. Certainly partnerships. When movie lines for movies come out, do they get the most push to get them on shelves over other product? That's a great question. Most companies are going to make some bets on which movies are the best for whatever they consider that is going to move product, whether it's going to be a great movie and parent approved and be dynamic like a Disney movie and a lot of other movies, or is it something that's really action oriented and it's got a lot of vehicles, a lot of whatever, that's all the big Transformers, Joes, Harry Potter, Star Wars. And so they'll make some decisions about where to spend their money. In the toy aisle, they usually kind of go for all of it, but they're not, around movie timing, you could do more assortments. When the movie timing goes away, the assortments kind of shrink back down. That's a big thing that happens. So it's really taking the momentum of that bubble. And there, back in the 90s, we would have 2 bites of the apple. So the movie would be in the theater longer for a Batman, let's say. And then some time would pass and you'd have some product, and maybe you'd kind of get to a pretty low level where you maybe just doing some redecos, and then the VHS would come out, and that would have a whole nother commercial launch and maybe even promotions of other sorts when the video cassette came out, so that we could put a whole new wave of product, a whole new so if you're familiar with the Unicron battles concept of a back end kind of line change, we used to do that on Batman. So when the videotapes would come out, we'd have a whole new story to tell, and by then the reference was out and everybody understood the movie, so you could have some interesting product come out of that. Let's see. Hey, Princeton Phalanx, how are you? Claudio, how are you? Chaotic Neutral, Cheesier, how are you? Let's see. Did we know Ironhide? Yeah, we knew Ironhide was going to get it. But it is what it is. You make the products out of the coolest stuff you can make the products out of. Not everybody sees the movie, too. You got, some kids are just going to get that truck, and it's a cool truck. It doesn't really matter what happens in the movie, believe it or not. Yeah, movie lines aren't in general what they used to be. You gotta have a reason to want the Avatar. So just because it's a popular movie doesn't mean it's going to move product, or people are going to be compelled to hold it in their hands and cherish it in plastic. The first Avatar movie is a good example of that. One of the biggest movies ever, right? And did not engage kids enough to want to replay those stories. And there's a whole host of reasons why that is. Because on the outset, it has, heroic characters with unique weapons and villains with unique vehicles and weapons. And there's a dramatic story and a final battle. Unique world where you could do a lot of things, both material processes and just classic toy features. But for whatever reason, it's missing some core elements. So anyway, that's I don't want to get into it too much. But they're not what they used to be. And, there's more movies, there's more spectacular movies, there's more genre movies and shows and games and digital worlds to already play, that it's hard. You used to be able to, I think we were more focused, right, towards the Batmans or, whatever the thing that was being pushed. Now it's just like everything. It's a very fractured space, and so the playbook still gets run, but there's not as many people to hear, to want to be there to participate. They're not being funneled as much. So that is why I think one of the reasons why these kind of movie lines aren't what they used to be. And like I said with Batman, they used to live a lot longer, so you could fall in love with the Batman Forever world for quite a long time in a given year. Now, the movies come out so fast, and they're already on the streaming services, and then the next one's coming out, and the next one. You're not able to have any kind of long-term relationship with these characters in toy form to form the types of bonds I think we might have had in the 80s with the G.I. Joes, the Transformers, the Turtles, certainly Power Rangers after that, where it was a more long-form communication and love affair than it churns so fast now. So how's everybody doing? We got a good amount of people in here already, so that's great. Welcome to the Toy Armada Friday Night Live broadcast. I am going to cover a couple of new items I got this past week, and I'm going to do another little segment of how I got this way with some of my favorite college influences. All Asian artists. Surprise, surprise. So, Ninjatron, if you want to remind me of that again, that'd be good. I don't want to forget. Let's see. See if I can find some more movie input here. Would you say the biggest difference between designing a toy line for a TV show or versus a movie? A TV show has the potential to live longer, although you never know if it's going to last season to season. Man, we worked on some projects that, seemed like pretty good TV shows, and I don't even think they last a full season. Space Above and Beyond. There was a Jim Henson kind of Mad Max kind of puppet thing in space. All kinds of things that they just didn't come out. That happens. Are action figures central to promoting a movie or show to kids as they used to be? Or is it more oriented toward nostalgia and adult collectors? Let me reorient you that they used to be central in getting a movie greenlit. Like, oh, we have toys. Oh, well, then toys will be part of the big marketing push. That means it's a bigger movie, bigger deal. It used to be a barometer of whether or not it, was going to be kind of the blockbuster you'd hoped all these kind of businesses hope to navigate, right? So they used to be central because the deals were often very lucrative in the fact that they'd get a big payday before the movie even came out from the toy companies to secure the rights. And then, there's various ways to get paid back in royalty or whatever else. I think over time, it is now seen as part of the promotion of the movie, at least conceptually within Hollywood. And I say that because of all the replica and no deviation from what's in the movies or style guide largely. So that's what I have a picture of. That's what I can approve. That's what we need. There's just not a lot of extra need for the other weird stuff. So I don't think it's such... for not all movies, it's not quite the same. So the nostalgia play lets everybody feel comfortable. Oh, people are aware of this brand. Now, whether or not they do something good with it, look at the Power Ranger movie that came out a couple years ago. Just because you make it and it has the title doesn't mean it's going to be great. I guess I can throw G.I. Joe under the bus, right? And those are different than brands like Battleship where no one knew what to expect. I'm talking about disappointing people, So I don't know if I totally answered your questions there, but there's some data points. I get too many things going in my head. I'm obviously a person that used to have the ability to hold a lot of things in my mind, and I think Transformers broke me over the long haul. So bear with me. Yeah, the shelf space over the years, obviously there's less space for every brand. I mean, even in my day of Batman, I think we talked in terms of, 16, 18 feet, same with Transformers. And now, if a brand gets, I think Transformers on a normal day has maybe 3 feet, Batman might have 2. G.I. Joe has 1. Jurassic Park has 4. But, yeah, it's very different now. Very different now. I mean, you really, it's just different. I did not work on Mummies Alive, but I had friends that were leads on Mummies Alive, and they were very fond memories of that one. Very cool packaging, interesting show. Kenner, since you brought up Mummies Alive, Kenner was always intrigued with the Ghostbuster freight features and some of the Beetlejuice features. They thought that was a great way to bring play to life. And so when those Mummies Alive toys came around, the management was really happy that that was happening. I don't think it played out entirely the way they thought it might, but there you go. Why aren't movie designs locked down before toy makers begin designing the toys? Notorious for making toys not finalized versions. So, Robot Assassin, if I had waited for the lockdown designs, you wouldn't have had you wouldn't have movie product until maybe 4 months after the movie had come out. In the way the toy schedules have to be to get it on shelf, off a truck that comes from a depot center, that comes from another depot center, maybe near a coast, near a offshoring facility, a dock, all the way back to Hong Kong, to a truck, to a factory, or at least a distribution point within a factory, to the line. You have to be pumping that stuff out in order to fill all those boxes, all those trucks, all those boats in time to hit the movie. And Hollywood just never has that ability to be that buttoned up. They have the ability to change things. You hear, they're still editing the film, 3 days before the movie comes out. Well, that is a perfect example how the toy company cannot wait, because nothing would ever be finished, and nothing would ever come out anywhere near the time of the films. You might get lucky to catch up with movie accurate stuff in the third wave of most Transformer lines. Star Wars does it because they demand it and they're controlling their art department in a whole different way. But sometimes they have to wait. If they don't give up the reference, they don't give up the reference, and you're not going to make the product. So that's a good example. Like when Mando came out, Hasbro didn't know, like everybody, about some of the characters and whatnot, and had to start then. And then you can't catch up a 10-month conservatively development cycle when you're behind. You just there's no way under the current conditions that you can do that. So I hope that answered the question. It would be great to get finalized movie designs, and I think that's what that particular line, the studio series, can give fans, is the final perfect version of some movie characters that otherwise wouldn't be right. Then in the other cases, that's movie cases. So animation cases, usually the toys first. So it's unfortunate that they don't match. I don't think I was. I did the first big red dragon. But I did all the transmetals, a lot of the transmetal 2s. Yeah, most stores still have Endgame toys. Yeah, and Spider-Man Far From Home toys. Kids, I don't want to go off on one, but we used to have a lot more free time, a lot more time to invest in these characters. I think the older Transformer fans know what I'm talking about. That's the reason we love, we would read the bios over and over and the comics over and over and watch the cartoons over and over, and we were immersed in it. I particularly was immersed in G.I. Joe back in the 80s. And you could, just because of time served and battles won by finding items and getting items for a holiday or something, you bonded with these properties in a different way than I think kids are now. And we had to fill up the time, so we would make up our own stories and continue what we read or what we saw. Stuff comes at these kids so fast now that I don't think they're developing, it's just, oh, that's really cool. And I just want the cool Spider-Man, the cool Doctor Strange, the cool Groot, and that's it. And they're not getting as deep as we might have in the past with these characters. So, wow. So the chain stores are going to end up with some of the extra characters that aren't as meaningful to anybody unless you're having a completist collection or a certain part of the Star Wars or Marvel universe kind of thing. And the other things are going to sit, it's unfortunate. It's a tough thing to ratio toys. Do you miss working for Hasbro and designing new toys? I miss creating with a big, giant group in a very creative building, absolutely, with a lot of partners and things. That was always fun. Sure. Yeah, Studio Series should make up for some of that. So, that you also have to consider that a lot of the kid-targeted product isn't, the kids are part of the hype of everything that's going on, and Transformers being a compelling toy, but they're not likely going to see the movies, right? So it's another way that you can get away with concept art, and why the Studio Series later on can really help. Is designing a line for movie and video games similar since the toys are released around their release dates? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. JS Bono 8. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah, Batgirl figure showing her hair. We did not have her showing her hair because we had art that had it covered, but then the poor girl had her hair torqued out every time she moved her head, so they opened it up. So our toy didn't match. That's a good one. Was there a conscious connection between Lightwing Batman and the Red Dragon Megatron? Similar colorization, wings, and cutouts. Well, no, because I didn't do the deco on Lightwing Batman. Nor did I do the deco on the Red Dragon. I just did the input drawings or sketches. So, El Kevo, you'd have not unearthed an Easter egg, unfortunately, but at least not in the colors. Ooh, Age of Ultron is still out there. Yowzer. That's rough. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Eternals toys, those 6-inch products are going to be out there forever. It'll be 2033 and we'll still be finding somebody on the shelf. What's a favorite toy gimmick of yours that didn't get used in Transformers toys? Yeah, glow in the dark's tricky. I've talked about that. It's hard to play with your toys in the dark, specifically Transformer toys. Color change is always cool with water, but there again, not every mother wants or every parent wants water being splashed around the house with the toys. Hot Wheels runs into a little bit of that. Mattel had these Hot Wheels cars with like scenes in the back of vans. You used to look through the little and the Hulk would be in the back of the van smashing the sides. That's what you would see, and you were like looking in the back of the van. I always tried to get something like that going, or key cars in Transformers, and we just couldn't get it to. We couldn't figure it out for various reasons. When did the switch from toy first to animation first hit the TV shows for Transformers? Around Prime. Was that decision influenced by the development pipelines established for the new movies? No. It was around Prime, and that was largely they were on a schedule to keep for the show, somewhat based in a movie vibe, obviously, and that was when the Hasbro studio launched and the hub was launching, and they just didn't have time to interact with the toy people as much as other productions, and kind of stuck to what they wanted to do, even if it meant trouble for us. So we just kind of had to go our own way because they were going to make the show they wanted to make. And that's tricky, and that's why Prime ultimately didn't succeed as a product line, because it didn't have any inherent toy gimmick in it. It was just Transformers, and just Transformers isn't enough. You need a little bit more things layered in there. The Power Rangers is an example. You need a new overlay every couple of years to, get grease the wheel, so to speak. And Prime is just kind of all just good character development, but no inherent toy stuff, right? I was mostly doing movie stuff when they were working on that animated or Prime first edition stuff. There you go, Van Hope. They really are Eternals. Yeah, those toys are going to be out there forever. What did you think would be the right approach for a G.I. Joe movie to catch the eye of a new crowd? What do you think? Well, that's a tough one. I think there's ways you can do it. Some of the things I've seen on Netflix. I'm not good with the names of movies, but that Zack Snyder zombie movie was interesting, as was the Charlize Theron kind of immortal movie. Those were compelling ways to present soldiers and creative people in problem solving that I wish the G.I. Joe movies would have had. Just make them more unique characters and not so much rah-rah. And I don't know. It's tough. So you are watching the Toy Armada Friday Night Live. Thanks for being here. And you guys know the drill. I got my website up there now. Woo. And I sell sketchbooks and original art that you can see down there. And other kinds of stuff that I am digging out of my closet. So I'm starting to make a pile of unique things, toys, and some printed goods, Transformers, and other things that I will also be putting up on my website. So check that out. I'll let you know over the next week. I got a big deadline going on, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm doing that. This is my nice part of my day. Yeah, a more low-key approach for G.I. Joe would definitely be needed, you know. A movie like, I don't know, a smaller group of people, you know, kickstarting something unique. You know, it can get grand over time. But that is not what happened with G.I. Joe. That is not what happened. Did you ever interact with the writers of the Unicron trilogy anime? I did not interact too much with the writers. I interacted with the producer or directors and some keyframe guys, but mostly the producer or the writer / director. So I guess he was kind of a writer. In Japan, the director has a different role a little bit, and it seems like it's often he that he'll make the plan, what he wants to animate, and that's how the story then gets written. That was my understanding of it then. I don't know any better way to answer that, but not like there wasn't a writer's room, and they weren't translating things into English for us in every case. We would get a broad scope from Takara, and we laid out pretty dramatic plans about episode drops, and characters would come in at these episodes and all that kind of timing. So we just knew in general it would all work. Yeah, G.I. Joe didn't do a very good job of making them deep. They made them kind of one-note caricatures a little bit. And, you know, that's just what it was. Unfortunate. Why is Beast Machines we never had a big Megatron, just the little guy in the bathrobe? That's a good question. I don't know. I know they were making a big head, spider head, but that never came out. It was only a prototype model. I don't know. I really didn't pay attention to the end of Beast Machines. I kind of had to deal with the pieces that were left. So I don't really know how they were dealing with the show or the characters as much at that point. Do you know what prompted the shift to 6-inch figure scale over 3 3/4 scale? It seemed the larger scale was being prioritized. Part of it was Toy Biz wanted that scale for the remnant of Toy Biz that became Marvel kind of licensing or approval, liked that legacy scale from Toy Biz and wanted that from Hasbro, so they started doing it there. The Black Series was also in the works to do more detail, more authenticity. It was celebrating the 30th or something at that time. So that's kind of what was going on. So I don't know. All I know was Marvel pushed for it so we changed over our 3 3/4 inch Marvel line, which was a really cool line designed by Dave Bonner, into what became the 6-inch line that Dwight Stahl does now, or did for a long time. I don't know what he does now. Did you design any of the robot heroes? I did not. Those were largely Marcelo as a freelance contributor. Did a lot of those. Aaron, the '07 cyber stomping Optimus Prime had an eye hole image gimmick. Yeah, that was one of my, yeah, it did. I think we called that Eagle Eye or something, but yeah, that was a fun item. I enjoyed that item. I was a big proponent of that one. So were certain characterizations from Armada, like Tragic Samurai Starscream or Unicron Double Agent Sideways, ideas that came purely from the anime team? No, we would give little bios and negotiate the type of character these characters would be. So in Cybertron, the red motorcycle and the green race car on Velocitron. What are the names of those guys? I can almost see it. Anybody out there? Hey Larry, how are you? Those characters we had, for those of you who've read Mice and Men, we had them kind of like a George and Lenny kind of thing, where the little talking guy, but was going to get roughed up if he didn't have his big buddy with him, and his big buddy would kind of go wild every once in a while, and whatever. Yeah, Ransack and Crumple Zone. Yeah, I could totally see it. Crumple Zone. That Crumple Zone is such a. I'm a fan of that name. I don't think I came up with that name. I think there was Crumple Zones before me, but I like that kind of name. It's funny. So those guys were written with this kind of characterization. We knew Sideways would be a spy, and so we would say we'd have words like sneaky or, mysterious. Cyclonus, I remember, in Armada, we used the word crazy at that time, and he's wild, unpredictable. Well, what I mean when I say crazy, it's like a type of character that's just a little like, I'm trying to think of a good example, just a little unpredictable. But in the anime, I mean, he's more like the Joker. He's like, and that it's a whole different cultural use of the word that didn't get translated very well. So it didn't always work. Robot Assassin. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm personally not a big fan of 6-inch figures, and I never worked on a line that had 6-inch figures. So I really don't know much about 6-inch figure designing in those kind of details. I was part of brainstorms where we would talk about Beast Machine's options for characters, and we would always bring up, there's a whole mythical beast component that you can always go down. If you think about how a line rolls out, it's very easy. The first wave, okay, we're gonna now Beast Wars is a little weird. We can talk about that too, but and I won't go too much depth because I'm sure we're going to do a long form, but usually you would be like, okay, we're going to put out the 10 best animals, and that's a lion, a bear, a panda, a hawk, whatever you want to make. They did things like the Razor Beast, right? And the polar bear, which is a weird one. Not I don't know. So anyway, you would go through, and they started running out of classic animals, and Beast Wars had a problem with a lot of 4-legged animals. It just gets redundant. So then you start thinking, okay, we'll turn them inside out, right? It'll be shiny on the outside, furry on the inside. Okay, and then I come along like, well, we'll just make peanut butter and jelly all the time, and they're kind of mishmashed inside and outside. And you start trying different things. Fuzors obviously is a big example of that. And then once we got to Fuzors, we're like, well, why don't we make chimeras and Capricorns and whatever, Cerberuses, and so on and so forth. So it was always coming up in brainstorms, and like, when can we do this? We always looked at it as a segment, like we'd really push all these fantastical creatures. We should have just dripped them in there. That would have worked just as good. In the end, it's kind of how it came out, but that's probably why more didn't come out. Battle Unicron is a wild one. That was like the most menacing Transformer at such a tiny size. Now that would be one that they should do in a big format. Really, really dress that guy up. There's not a lot of horse Transformers. So that would be interesting and valuable for people in the collection. It's a tough-looking unicorn horse, so that you overcome any of the girly stuff. And it's a great robot. So, I don't know. Might have just started something here tonight. Large-scale Battle Unicorn. What do we say? Toy Armada Podcast. We'll start it here. All those early Beast Wars are great. They just don't, by today's logic, they definitely don't fly. But even by that logic, back then, the same thing that said, let them get away with, we'll make a bat and an alligator, Optimus and Megatron. Just weird decisions at the time. I also think you can see that they were tiptoeing into Beast Wars. Some of the larger items didn't come out until later. So you could see that they were scared about what they were going to do a little bit, or unsure of how to do it, or something. It builds. And what about the cases where repaint was the different character in the toy line, but just an upgrade in the animated series? Yeah, no, Thundercracker, I don't know. We purposely we knew we were going to redeco a lot of those Armada items. It was in the plan from the beginning, when they would even come out. So we wanted events to happen in the show that would create color change. Whether that was a different character or a character that got kind of shifted in his colors, we didn't always care. Different stories need different things. So I can't really remember on Thundercracker, but probably not a miscommunication, just a weird way to make the plan work for us. The writers could only offer so much. Maybe we couldn't have an extra I don't know. Don't want to guess, but are aquatic animals and aquatic vehicles alt modes a hard sell for Transformers? They are. When I look at the Nemesis, is that what it is in Unicron trilogy? Or Slug Slinger, or some, I really had to fight for some of the weirder things. Aquatic animals are a lot like trains, they're very thin formed and only a couple fins. They're usually one color. The shark obviously is very popular, and sharks are going to be popular, but after that, what do you do? We tried different things. I'd be interested to hear what you thought would be a good one. Things like octopuses, they need too many parts. They did do the lobster and with the combiner, some of that type thing, but I don't think they were out of bounds. They were just not the top of the list. Bugs were, believe it or not, a more difficult seller on Beast Wars. If you guys remember, if anybody remembers, the bugs didn't always do well, and there's a variety of reasons, color being one of them, but bugs were still icky in the 90s, I think. Sharkticon, yeah. Yeah, I did Slug Slinger. That's a fun one in Energon. A Cybertron Hovercraft Decepticon and Decepticon Girl Boat. Yep, those are fun. Those are Eric items. Ooh. Flying by here. The text is flying by. We learned a lot on Beast Wars about what animals did or didn't work and what you could get away with, and some like real kind of like, wow, that did not work. And that it's a variety of reasons, like color, the way it was put out in the package, could be a lot of different things. One of the things as a designer, not to say that there's no fault on us, but you do your best to create something awesome, and everybody else does their best to create something awesome. But sometimes your toy gets locked in a dark little package. Sometimes your toy is put against the same color it is with a background that's the same color. Or a big logo or a sticker gets slapped on the bubble, right where the cool weapon that everybody made you really work on got put, watch the hub or whatever sticker. A lot of things can contribute, maybe a name got changed, anything. Anyway, a lot of things can contribute to why a toy doesn't ultimately find great success. And it always comes down to, in other people's eyes, design issues. Oh, we didn't like the colors weren't good enough. Oh, it didn't articulate enough. It's like, man, there's a lot of things that were in your control that never come up. But that might be a gripe for a different day. Why didn't the Energon Starscream get more recolor? The deluxe one? I don't know. I did that one. I really don't know why that one didn't get more redeco use, particularly out of the TFCon, or BotCon type scenarios. I don't know. It's a good question. There was the one where it was classic deco without the clear mold in there, and I don't know if I've seen anything else. Was Thunderblast ever intended to float? No. It seems like some rubber gaskets around the shell could have made that possible. Yeah, claiming something can float means it has to float. And when something has to do something, that's an engineering situation. And, trying to certify that a Transformer floats is just, that's going to be over-engineered for the $10 price point that was, or $12 price point. So Transformer boats were never going to float. Make that a t-shirt. Yeah, new depth charge would be cool. A Manta Ray design was tough, but it was so cool in the show, right? So he was in the show. Pretty sure. Yep, Energon Mirage definitely does not float. Back when they announced the collaboration between Transformers and My Little Pony, I think that they were gonna do a Battle Unicorn. Oh no. Interesting. I don't know about Springer. I don't know if that got cut or not. I don't know if I even saw it. I can't remember. Oh, that's right. Is that the one with the neon green and purple? Lyozak. Yeah, boats floating is tough, and even in like we did, I think we did one in Batman, and we did a Steve Bono did a Nightwing jet ski kind of thing that float. It did float, but it it just is. There's different requirements that you have to meet, and not every factory operates with those requirements in mind. These factories specialize in different things, and floating engineering might not be something a normal plastics manufacturing company is going to worry about at the same level. So, and again, if you claim that it does something in the product, then you have to make sure that it does do that. Okay. Gotcha. All right. With that, I'm going to show you a few things that I got in the mail today. Continuing with the theme of last week, I was sent this bad boy from the people at Fans Hobby. Very cool. Again, very referential, very someone who couldn't wait for Hasbro to get back to that stuff, was definitely wanted to make it. So that's very cool. Very cool. Very cool they sent that. All these years Hasbro's never sent anything. That's fine, but just as an example. So it's cool to get something. It's been a while since I got toys. And they sent me the redeco. So that's fun. I didn't even have a sample of that redeco for a long time. I think Eric did that redeco, or part of it, through my hands maybe. I think I picked the colors or something, but so that's fun to see in a whole different form. So haven't opened the boxes yet to see if I enjoy playing with them. I just haven't had time. I got a freelance gig I'm up to the wire on, so I'm not playing with the toys as much. So, but that was cool for them to send that. So that was cool. Get my water out of the way. So let's do it, Ninjatron. How'd I get this way? So what I do here is I'm a creative person. I spend my time being creative, making stuff, characters and stories. So how I get this way is kind of where I show some of the things that I had as a kid or along my journey that helped me become the guy that made this stuff that we all talk about. So this one I got in college. I don't know if you all know this one. This changed everything. This changed everything. Getting import books was tough. This was one of the first ones. It was like a collection of his art. I broke the dust jack a little while ago. But if you're not familiar with Shiro's work, do yourself a favor. So he did Appleseed and Ghost in the Shell is the one he's most, I guess, famous for. But I was a big fan of Appleseed back in the day. Had a bootleg copy of that movie. So, he did this marker render stuff. Kind of the early kind of guy with sexy drivers inside mech suits. He definitely was big into that. But I was just into the marker rendering style that he did, and got this book in college on the recommendation of a friend, and it was just always good inspiration. I used it as inspiration during Hasbro days, Kenner days particularly. So that guy, if you don't know Masasumi Shiro, check out that stuff. And then Amano. Maybe Final Fantasy fans know his work. Vampire Hunter D is his concepts as well. I'm a big fan of looseness in my watercolors and my painting, and this guy just brought all kinds of juice to the party that was really inspirational when I was making my Batman toys and looking for different forms and things. Look at that stuff. So I've had this book for a long time. And then out of Hong Kong, I used to get the Jade Man comics, but this is what I have. Ku Fuk Long. Solar Lord, if you're familiar with that. But how I'm painting today, I've liked his stuff for a long time. And I still look at it for reference. So there's 3 examples of how I got this way. Did the Gatchaman designs, which is very cool, which I liked as a kid as well. So like I've been with that guy, whether I knew it or not, the whole time. So I just show those things. I like to talk about my creative process and what gets me jazzed to draw and create characters. So those are 3 examples of things that got me inspiration along the way. Oddly enough, I don't like when Amano does licensed characters. Maybe Sandman, but Hong Kong comics are freaking wild because they look like Hong Kong movies in what they're trying to present. And, I love the drawings with like 1,000 hands, because you're moving so fast, or the jumping, the force perspective and stuff. It's just really cool stuff. If you're not familiar with Hong Kong comics, check them out. They're interesting for sure. Very action oriented, and it's different than manga. Completely different than manga. It's its own thing. Speaking of fans' hobby, how often did you guys look at third-party stuff? Did you ever have to change a design? No. I mean, Hasbro own those characters, so you can't. There's nothing proprietary about most of the transformation processes, so we wouldn't have to we didn't really look at that stuff other than there's more stuff out there being kind of done by other companies. I don't think the Redeco's even out yet, is it? Oh, I don't know. So is this not out in the wild yet? I don't know. That's funny. If it's not out in the wild. They're heavy, I'll give you that. They are using a robust plastic. Okay. Good. I don't feel like I took somebody's early sample or something. All right. What else do we got? So it's 11 here. I think I'm going to call it quits today at 11 here. Please check out my website, like and subscribe and all of that. Archermonster.com, where I sell sketchbooks and art. The picture here, right there, that's my dad. He passed a year ago today, so it's just been a long day. So, and I was also at another funeral for my aunt today. So, it's been a long day. So, do yourself a favor. Call your family, email your family, tell them you love them. You never know. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. So thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on the flip side.